seeing this organics back here again. I know it's been a while. Been working a lot of long hours. Been working 7 days a week, 12 plus hours a day. Some days longer than others. And I want to give you an update. I know it's been a little bit. Even with working all the hours that I've been working, everything is kind of self-sustained and kind of working good. We got some siphons starting and some finishing up and some going in our original grow beds. This netting has worked great. It helps keep most of the leaves and whatnot out of there. And I don't know if you can see, there's fish down there swimming around, some big ones, some small ones. Just goldfish for right now. This was all an experiment to see how well it worked. And so we go to our grow beds, and this here actually kind of surprised me pretty well. I know that you can take a clipping off of a tomato plant and put it in the dirt and it grows another tomato plant. Well, this was a trimming off of these tomato plants, off of one of them that was getting out of hand, and I shoved it down into the hydrogen, the gravel here, and it started growing, and it's even, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's even trying to flower pretty quick. So that little clone there has done pretty well. So as you can see, we've got a lot of tomatoes. There's tomatoes back there and tomatoes up here and even all the way over here. I had to readjust. We had quite a bit of wind the other day, and even though that this guy kind of like, it looks like it broke, I was able to kind of string it up to support it, and everything seems to be just thriving. It didn't get all wilty, like as if the main line broke and it got all down and depressed. Everything seems to be going good, and I'm over 6 foot tall. I'm raising this up as tall as I can, so this is over 8 foot. I still have guys, little tomatoes popping up. I mean, they're just, let me see if I can get that little guy. They're just going everywhere. It is really, really doing well. I have been pruning every 4, 5, 6 days. I just haven't had much time with work. The little basil plant back in the corner, yeah, it kind of got smushed over by the tomato, but believe it or not, the basil, it still hasn't flowered. It's still actually doing really well. A lot of great tasting basil there. The okra, which as well, only about 4 or 5 days. I'll go through and I'll trim off some of the lower branches because they don't get enough light, and so they start getting yellow and whatnot. And I pick those off, and it actually helps the plant. So the plant's not wasting the energy to try to keep that branch alive. It can spend more time in producing fruit and the healthier leaves. So here's some small okra. There's some more over here. Let's see if I can get back at the back. Let's see. Yeah, there's one that's probably, I could probably pick it tonight. It's a little over 3 inches long, and we have another guy over here, another flower. Lots of flowers, lots of cucumbers coming up. You know, they're doing great. Some of these plants were transplanted from the hydroponics. Most of them actually was transplanted from the hydroponics. Some of them are doing better than others, but still, there's a lot that's just really a mess. Some of this I tied up, and then the wind blew, and I didn't get to it in time, so then I tried to tie it up again, and and they're growing in S shapes and question marks, and just like growing like all kinds of all over the place. Some of them have cinched up pretty well. You know, this guy here cinched up pretty well. Here's another tomato plant that actually, it'll show you, it had grown so well inside with the hydroponics that it actually curled instead of growing straight. That's probably on my side that I didn't do good of keeping them strung up and giving them support. But even though they're leaning and it's kind of a mess and everything's, I mean, it just kind of looks like a mess. It's actually better organized than you might think. And this is also with over a month now, maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks of working 7 days a week. So this system was designed partially by myself, partially by others that I had watched, so that even a guy that's really busy, that works way too much, would be able to produce produce and keep things growing. This is the last bed here. Little tiny tomato plant. This is actually another clone, if you will. It's a branch that was getting out of control, but it was a pretty healthy big branch, and I clipped it off and I shoved it down into the hydrogen, the gravel, if you will, and it took root and it started growing. Excuse me. This here is another okra plant that actually I brought out. I guess it was 2 days ago. I brought it 2 days ago. It was doing really well inside, but I needed the room. That it was just getting way out of hand for the small space that I had. And anyways, the stalk is good and healthy. The leaves, they look all kind of wilty and like kind of depressed. But at the same time, this guy just popped up today looking great. So I think the other leaves will end up perking up and this guy will end up producing. If we kind of move this aside, yeah, we got some produce that will come from this plant. Most of these back here were the same way, that it was kind of like they're just getting too big for inside. I need to move them out. And some of them were a couple of weeks ago and some of them were very recent. Well, we got a decent sized okra back there growing. Probably need to pick that guy. I may pick him tonight or I may wait till tomorrow. So this is our ebb and flow hydroponic system. Explained it in other videos, how I built it and how the bell siphons work and everything else. Check me out at CNS Organic. They're on YouTube. And everything's been going really well. I haven't had to do almost any maintenance. I've come out and trimmed a few branches and clipped off some clippings, and on average I've been getting I don't know, over the last week and a half or so, coming out in the evening for 15 minutes, probably anywhere from 10 to 12 okra a day. We've got tons of tomatoes. I've only got a few, but there's tons that are coming up. Last week it was in the hundreds. It was extremely hot, and this week is getting cooler. Love the weather here in Texas. So depending on what the weather does, on how quick I can build the greenhouse around this, some of these tomatoes I may end up picking early and letting them ripen in like a brown paper bag or in a windowsill or what have you. But even green, they're doing well. The other system I actually had some difficulties with, and this is a deep water culture aquaponics system. I've explained some of this in my previous videos. That's the the sump, very simple, super simple design. The water comes up in, the extra, if it overflows, goes back to the bottom. This little filter here is just a cheap little filter. I had a problem with, I believe, a toxin. I don't believe it was pH or nitrate or nitrate or even ammonia levels or chlorine. I'm not for sure. I really and truly don't know. Like I said, I've been working way too much to have really narrowed it down. But I put this this filter. It's you can go buy it at any retail store. It's made for like 75 gallons, and we've got a 55-gallon drum. We've got about half of one there, and the table itself I think is like 375 gallons. So it's not enough to really like do a filtering job. But what it was is I kept having fish die. I'd put them in, they'd last 2, 3, 4 days, and then they would die on me. And so I'm like, well, heck, there's got to be something going on, and I don't have time to really, drain the whole system and figure out what's going on. So I figured I'd put in this little filter system just to kind of help to get the water right, and left it for a little bit. And I tried fish again, and I still had fish. So I changed out the filters in this little filter guy. I changed out the little cartridges. They're back here in the back, and they have carbon in them. I changed them out again and waited a few days, and I put some fish in. I guess it was about 4 or 5 days ago. Let's see if I can get this thing open with one hand. All right, reach it over that way, and you can't really see, but let me see if I can grab my flashlight here. Hold on. I put in some seaweed, which is good for both fresh and saltwater fish. And I don't know if you can see, but the fish are still alive after like 5, 6 days. There's I think 2 dozen goldfish, and they're doing good. They are doing good. So I'm extremely happy. There's a little spider going by. See that right there? I probably knocked him off when I opened it up. But there's a piece of that seaweed. You can find that at some of your aquaculture stores. Your I don't know about the big chain stores. How about that at a local, kind of like a mom and pop kind of place. And the screens, I keep them in place. You can see some leaves. We've got this beautiful pecan tree. We get tons of pecans every year. And it was probably my own fault for building this where I did, almost underneath this big pecan tree. I noticed that the water would get stained and be a dark brown. And I don't know if for sure. I'm thinking more possibly that the pecans that the squirrels were eating, there's a squirrel nest up there, that the squirrels were eating, and all the little bits and pieces that were falling into this aquaponics system was contaminating the system with too much of the dye that comes off of pecans. So I ended up using some extra styrofoam. This is kind of just a makeshift. I threw that together and used some of the old filters to kind of wedge it so that nothing can move. And I clamped these guys down because all these beds down here, there's another like 6 beds down here I'm not using right now. And with doing that and the filter, seemed to eliminate the fish dying. So some of these plants are doing well. Got a little spinach there, just ain't quite doing it, but I think it's been too hot. Now that the weather's starting to cool down, it'll do better. And some of these are nice bright and green. Not every spot's filled, but some of these I just transplanted, I guess it was yesterday. So they seem to be doing well now that we've got living fish in the system to take care of the nutrients that the plants need. Hopefully here real soon I'll get a few days off and I can give you another video. I'm planning to actually build a structure a little bit above the top railing of the deck here. Coming out, I've already purchased the wood. Let's see if I can walk over there real quick. Sorry about the movement. You actually get to see my goldfish pond, just the goldfish pond itself. But that's it there. The water's a little bit low. I need to fill it up. But right over there is basically all the wood that I'm gonna need. And then I'll have to buy the clear plastic, corrugated plastic to do the roof and the sides and get this thing weathered in. Like I said last week, it was pretty darn close to 100 degrees. And this week, today being Tuesday, this week on Friday, the low will be 44. You gotta love the weather here in Texas. You just never know what you're gonna get. I'm just really happy that I've maybe spent 10 minutes an evening, some evenings not even coming out here. I've had to add a little bit of water here and there because of the heat, but all in all, this system has ran itself. I haven't had to do much more than maybe pick out a few leaves and some of the kernels off of this big beautiful pecan tree. So when I get to building the greenhouse over both of these systems, I will do my darndest to make sure I have a video. I appreciate everybody watching. If you could, go and watch my other videos at CNS Organics and subscribe. It's not gonna hurt. If you don't want to, that's fine too. No big deal. I'm not trying to make any money off of this. This is just my experiment, and the subscription deal will let you know when I've got new videos posted. You guys have a great evening here from Texas.